Hey, welcome to the show. Tonight's show's gonna make you feel like Joe Gazen's in your heart. Well, he's already in your heart because we are now 4 days away from his retirement. I want to get right into this right now because May 28th is Joe Gazen Day, and when I looked at this, I was like, what the heck? We're smoking crack while thinking of this day? It's like, oh, I get it. It's Joe Gazen Day because he's retiring on May 28th. It's like, whoa. I mean, why would the mayor of Kingsville decide to make it Joe Gazen Day? I mean, he is retiring after 40-something years. I mean, Underdog Day, that's something for the mayor to do from Underdog. But I am happy that Joe Gazen from Channel 3 is leaving, and I have a special announcement, a special Give Me a Break plan for him if I contact him. Looking back at all his times, I mean, I think he was a great reporter throughout all these years. 43 years of doing Channel 3, and then all of a sudden, bam. I'm proud of Joe Gazen, and I hope that he continues to report the news in any way he can. But we'll get to that a little bit later. But first, we've got some news to talk about, which is the latest on the missing swimmer. The missing swimmer has now been identified. I mean, a few days ago, it was just a day or two ago that this 18-year-old was swimming with the 16-year-old brother when the older brother went missing. But just today, someone has identified that swimmer. His name Andrew Bass. He was the guy that was the missing Padre Island swimmer. I mean, first Jasadi Smith, now Andrew Bass. I mean, it was a Give Me a Break so important. I had to come on. I mean, all I had to do was just do a very important show to talk about this case. What I'm gonna do right now is play for you guys so that none of you miss a thing. And I'm just gonna play you a portion. I was all like, today, Give Me a Break, so extraordinary. Just listen.
Today, Give Me a Break, so extraordinary, so amazing, you can't look the other way. How do you mean extraordinary? We're talking about the Jasani case. This is all from a student named Jasani Smith. This whole segment is going to be dedicated to him.
And that's why I'm dedicating this show all about the missing Padre Island swimmer and the Riptides. So I hope that they find this guy. Now we're going to move on to the young surfer who saved a boy who was caught in that riptide. Zon Road. Swam. And Lyra Kelly was that rescuer. I mean, if I can have her come on the show, tell her side of the story, what happened, then this can be a great episode. So, this is all going back to Jasani Smith. And keep in mind, when Jasani Smith was down in that riptide, he wasn't rescued. He didn't have a little brother. If any of his friends looked into this, saw what he did, he would just rescued him and he would have been safe. And again, throughout this broadcast, it's all about the riptides. And then a bit later, safety break. I mean, all the safety break. Riptides and click it or ticket. Seatbelt safety. That's next. So before the break, we talked about this 18-year-old man who went missing on Padre Island. But before that, there was a young surfer that rescued the boy. But he didn't see the young man. He didn't see that 18-year-old. And if he had saw the 18-year-old, this would have been a missing case. He disappeared for more than 20-some hours. That's not right. If you're gonna file a missing person report, you can't wait 48 hours. It's like 2 days. It may not be right, but that leads me to consider how do you survive a rip current? How can you survive a riptide? Which brings us to our safety break. Which brings us to our first of our series of safety breaks. You know what that is? It's all about the safety of you, your children, and yourself and your children. So that we can understand these people, so that we can understand how you can make sure that you are safe during these times. So, there are 2 methods from WikiHow, and there's 3 methods from WikiHow, and we're going to try our best to get through all of them. So, method 1 is reacting how you're caught in a rip current. The first tip is, remain calm. If you get caught in a rip current, don't panic. You'll have a better shot at getting out of the situation if you stay calm. Keep your cool, conserve your energy, and think clearly. Try to control your breathing, think positive and calming thoughts, and remind yourself that a rip current does not drag you underwater. Same thing with quicksand. It's just really wet land. Number 2, if you're not a strong swimmer, you need to call for help. If you know how to swim, you should be able to escape and swim back to shore at an angle away from the current. However, if you have any doubt about your ability to break free of the current, call and wait for help like this. Three, float or tread water until you can swim out of the current. Most whip currents begin about 50 to 100 yards from shore. Once the currents begin to subside, you'll have an easier time swimming out of it. Even the stronger swimmers can fight the rip current. Trying to swim against it can lead to exhaustion and drowning. Also, swim parallel to escape the current. They're between 30 and 100 feet. Look for the nearest breaking waves. They indicate the current's edge. Swim towards the waves, and be sure to be parallel to the shore instead. Some researchers advise against swimming parallel to the shore. Instead, they recommend simply floating at the end of the current, which may take about 3 minutes. Make sure you time it. Swimming parallel to shore is the first recommendation. That's 2018 NOAA and the U.S. Lifesaving Association continue to urge swimmers to swim parallel to shore. If you're not a strong swimmer, call for help. You can swim. If you can swim, paddle parallel to shore, but avoid exhausting yourself. If you're not making progress, save energy and flow until the current weakens or rescue arrives. Swim diagonally to shore if you're out of current. Once you're out of the current, make your way back to shore and angle away from the current. Swimming diagonally away from the rip current minimizes the chance you'll re-enter it. If it's necessary, stop and float periodically rest. If you're exhausted and can't swim any further, you can call for help and wave your arms. Method 2. Spotting rip current. Try to spot areas before going in the water. Signs of rip current subtle are always present. The rip current should also form while you're already in the water. Check the shoreline for an elevated position. It's easier to spot rip current from an elevated position at eye level. Look for gaps for incoming wave patterns. Check the areas that don't have white foam or don't seem to have any breaking waves. Note that you're not looking for gaps between wave and the one behind it. Gaps that indicate rip currents are within the horizontal wave line itself. Try searching online for images of rip currents. They're tough to spot, but a good indicator is a gap to the wave pattern. Also, spot any foam or seaweed being carried away from shore. Additionally, water within the rip current may be slightly discolored. This is due to the sediments picked up by the current. Also, avoid any areas where you suspect a rip current is formed. Don't go in the water to the area you spotted signs of rip current. Tell the nearest lifeguard they'll all be aware, but it's helpful to check with them just in case. Ask them about the beach forecast and any warnings about any hazardous conditions. Keep your guard up. If you don't see any signs of rip current, they're difficult to spot, and the rip current may be present if you don't see any indicators. Number 3, practicing beach safety, which is not part of the safety break. Swim only when a lifeguard is on duty. Avoid swimming alone. Stick to guarded beaches. Additionally, go swimming in the water in front of a lifeguard stand, especially if there are any alerts about possible rip currents or other hazardous conditions. Just swim near a lifeguard stand. If you go swimming in an unguarded beach, avoid going in deeper than your waist. It's also best to bring a flotation device into the water with you. Check your local beach forecast before going into water. Look for flag signs that are already potentially dangerous in ocean conditions. If you see a flag that aren't sure what it means, it might be best to ask a lifeguard. If you live in the U.S., check your local beach forecast. Or just watch the weather right now and then. If you're planning on going to the beach this summer, you need to make sure that you look up your beach forecast every now and then. That's a new tip. So if you guys are going to the beach, I strongly recommend that you guys make sure you check out the beach forecast. If there's no advisories to the base of the Gulf, then you're good to go. Otherwise, then I don't know. Don't try to rescue someone if you're caught in a rip current. You gotta let them stay calm. Don't try to fight the current, swim parallel to shore to get out of it. Try to find an object that floats if possible. Throw it to the person caught in a current. If you don't have a rescue equipment, such as a life jacket or a wing buoy, a surfboard, boogie board, cooler, a foam noodle will work as improvised flotation devices. If the weather is nice, you need to use caution. While strong winds may make waves choppier, rip currents are directly caused by weather and can even calm conditions. Key factors include the shape of the ocean bottom, sandbars, and structures such as jetties, rocks, and piers. If you survived those 3 tips, you wouldn't have been like you would. If you survive these, then you could be sure to tell your story about how you survived the rip current. And by looking at these tips, you too can save yourself and someone you love and the child you love in the Riptide. There's more here break when we come back. In this one, I want your kids to be in the front row for this. Back in a moment. If you're planning on going on summer vacation this summer, you need to think about these 6 words. Click it, or you either need to click it or ticket. 4 words. Click it or ticket. Those 4 words. You follow those 4 words, then you could be safe. So I want all the children to stand to watch from the front row. The parents sit with your child so we can talk about seatbelt safety for a safety break. So let's face it. Many people don't like wearing seatbelts, but technically, it's the law. If you're not wearing a seatbelt, in this state alone, if an officer finds that you're not wearing a seatbelt, you could be issued a $250 fine. And we do have some seatbelt safety tips from anticurscenter.com. If you follow these important safety tips, safety break, they could save your life. Always buckle up before driving or riding the car. It goes everyone in the vehicle, whether you're sitting in the front or the back. Wear the lap belt low across the hips and below your stomach. Wear the shoulder belt over your collarbone, away from your neck. It should cross over your chest. In most new cars, you can adjust the shoulder belts to improve the height and fit. A seatbelt that works properly can keep you safe in the distance from the dashboard and the airbag. And in the near future, we'll have airbag safety tips in our future safety break. Children should never sit in the front passenger seat until they reach at least the age of 13. So if your child's on the age of 13, they cannot sit in the front seat. Secure all young children in child safety seats. We'll have the car seat safety tips on our next safety break. If you're pregnant or riding a car, make sure the safety belt is snug across your hips. Loose belts can cause broken ribs or injuries to your belly. Never put a lap belt across your stomach if you're pregnant. And there are 5 ways seatbelts can help occupants. EverydayHealth.com has the very latest. It keeps the occupants of the vehicle inside, restrains the strongest part of the body, spreads out any force from a collision, helps the body slow down. It also protects your brain and spinal cord. And these are rules within the children. Rear-facing child safety seat. You need to have a rear-facing child safety seat, a forward-facing child safety seat, a booster seat, a seat belt. A clear message. You need to wear your. This is a clear message for everyone. You need to wear your seat belt. It doesn't matter whether you like it, your child likes to wear a seat belt or not. If you don't like wearing a seat belt, that is your problem. But it is the law. If you break the law, you're going to get fined in this state. It feels like a nice, cozy hug. Don't be in a hurry. Move your child in the belt, Disney booster seat. It does not fit well sometimes between the ages of 8 and 12, depending on the size of your child. If you want to take the safety belt test, we'll have that for you at safekids.org. Check the lap belt, you have to check the shoulder belt. If your child doesn't pass the test, you need to keep him in the booster seat till he does. Be a good example. We know that when adults wear seatbelts, kids wear seatbelts. Be a good example and buckle up for every ride. Make sure everyone in the vehicle buckles up too. Even the bus drivers. I mean, if you're not buckled up like this, then if they don't hear that click, they have to stop till you do. That's why most buses do not have seat belts. Some buses do, some buses don't. And on a future safety break, how safe are your school buses? It came from a primetime live report back in 1994. And that inspired me to figure out the question. How safe are your school buses? And seatbelts are really safe for your child, so that and there's also 5 ways to seatbelts help prevent injuries. It can help preventing an ejection, shifting crash forces, the strongest parts of the body, the structure, spreading crash forces over the right area of the body, keeping the body more close to the proper driving positions, and protecting the head and spinal cord. I think I may have talked about this, but I don't care. Seatbelts can save lives. And what I recommend people do is the 5-step test. Back against the vehicle seat, knees bent and the edge of the seat, lap belt low on tops of thighs, shoulder belt between the shoulder and the neck, stay until the entire trip. Try to understand these tips and we can all be friends here. I'll be back in a moment. Let me tell you guys, after 4 years doing this show, I've never covered safety topics and tips. I've mainly covered education. I mean, when I cover safety tips, I usually put the children's interest first because of what the issue is. But when you're dealing with safety is the number one priority for parents and child. So when you do a safety segment on your show, you basically the number one thing you have to do is make sure you do it for your parents and your child, so that they can understand. Oh, if I follow these safety tips from this guy, then I can be safe. It's not always going to happen, but if it does, then we can all be safe and living our lives. And in those 2 cases, Josiah Smith from years ago and this case from yesterday, we can all be safe by following these safety tips. And when I go out, I also follow these safety tips when I go out at night. Wearing light reflective clothing, mosquito safety. We all have to be safe from the Zika virus. You don't want the Zika virus. You need to make sure you pack, and I do mean you really pack insect repellents. 2 or 4 would help. Because out there are skeeters, and they're willing to bite you. If you don't know what you're doing, you could get that Zika virus, and your life would be like a skeeter. And most of the time you were shooting skeeters with a gun. Skater, pull! Skater, pull! Skater, pull! Like that. So if we follow these tips, we can all be safe, and we can teach our children the same thing when we have grandkids also. Until next time, take care of yourself and each other. Good night, everyone. I'll see you Wednesday.